Hi. Good evening, guys. They say you should save the last one should be the biggest one and the best one. I will not say best and the biggest, but definitely worth the wait, hopefully. We have ARKS Srinivas from Career Launcher today. Again, very popular across all the channels, so to speak. He takes sessions and he just returned from a class about, what, 10 minutes ago, ARKS?
20, 30 minutes ago.
20 30 minutes ago, right? I mean, he's one of the few people who probably did not get stuck in traffic because he recently moved to Delhi. And I don't now. The thing about ARKS is that the story of ARKS is probably as old as the story of our test prep industry itself. I mean,
You just made me very old. Thank you.
uh, the thing is, I mean, he was perhaps the first person that I met at a conference with Time earlier, and ARKS used to be the old course director for Time and cat course director, then franchisee for Time. And I mean, you will probably, there are very few things in the test prep world that probably ARKS has not done. Okay, so it is very, it's you will you there are very few things which he has actually not done. So I will not waste a lot of time. I mean, most of the time will be letting ARKS speak. Okay, ARKS, about 20 years of test prep. I mean, what do you think are the three biggest changes that you have seen?
Well, first, thank you, Vivek, once again. Honestly, I think first statement you made, the best for the last. I'm sure, hopefully, the other three people who were there in the show did not listen to this.
No. I did not say. I did not say
No,
just
if you
this.
did say it, I have interpreted it well for myself.
Yeah.
I'm being very smart in that. Thanks to you. Yes, you're right about it. Actually, just listening to you, that over the last 20 odd years, I have actually gone through everything. I was the first part-time faculty at Time, if you remember, a long time back. Then I was the first CAT director, so to say, or a product director for an organization. Then did the business as a franchisee, as a manager, and did something else in a business school, then came back into online training, probably one of the first few of them. In that sense, it's been a great journey. But if you ask me three things that have changed, on a business side, I will tell you, not necessarily on the exam side. I think when we started off a long time back, it was very seriously a correspondence business. You all these big guys in the IIT JEE space, like the Agarwal, the brilliance of the world. And of course, IMS, which is the age-old CAT prep player, used to have correspondence as the starting point of it. Time then came in, of course, Career Launcher. I mean, IMS had to join the bandwagon. The next 15 odd years, I think it was a completely classroom test prep space that got completely, it has taken over the entire industry in that sense across the country. I think today you come to it, there seems to be a clear shift. I would say the third shift. I think slowly but steadily and decidedly towards the online space, both in terms of videos as well as in terms of live classes. In fact, the fact that we are discussing on Google Hangouts like this, I think is a complete testimony to the fact that from classroom lectures, classroom seminars in various halls, kind of moved to these kind of systems. I think that's the kind of shift that I'm looking at. I think the shift's also because of technology, because of students' preferences. People used to be, most non-work experience, rather freshers in the industry used to write the CAT exam. I think now close to 2/3 of them are people with at least a year experience or more. I think that's the kind of a shift that we are seeing, especially in this industry, CAT test prep industry at least.
So it's almost like its life has come a full circle. So you first went to physical classes where everyone was together, and now it has gone back to distance education.
Okay, it's almost like that.
And you have managed centers which are larger centers in time. You're right now the course direct. I mean, the MBA head in CL. How do these big test preps actually manage this? I mean, see, for about what I realize is that for all of all of my student life and whatever the life that I left in between before I joined Time to take up the franchisee, was that everyone basically was going to the big. I mean, the top three were basically trying to consolidate the market, right? I mean, come 2011, 12, the market started breaking up again. Right. I mean, with you have all these online models which are coming up. Uh, where do you see the challenge? Or, I mean, do you think that the big ones are going to get bigger and bigger? I mean, obviously, everyone would like the big ones to get bigger and bigger, but uh, what is happening? I mean,
So
what
I
do
think
we?
you read the entire thing correct, Vivek. Somewhere between the 2010 to 2015, 16, even 17, I think 2017, I think a lot of smaller players, both in the classroom space, classroom side, as well as in the online space started. In fact, if I just go back a little, between 2003, 4, 2002 to 2010, a lot of classroom players in every city in the world mushroomed. Almost all of them have kind of either closed down and or have got acquired by the big three, if I may want to call it, mostly pioneered or rather led by Career Launcher itself, CL itself. Again, if you look at 2010, 11, 12, a lot of online players, including Vistamind, which I was a part of, and I started this myself, started off along with Handaka Funda, Ravi Handa has started it, or a Mindworks of Arun Sharma has started it. 2IIM, Rajesh was there on your show today.
Yeah.
He started it, and a host of other small and big started it. But if you look at it again, what happens? If you look at Arun Sharma again, he has come back into the brick and mortar model. Honda is going nowhere else. Vistamind has merged with Career Launcher. 2IIM is struggling to keep it where it is, where it was. I think I see a lot of consolidation happening in the online space also. Maybe again, the couple of big players will continue to kind of grab the market share. There is an Unacademy, there is a iQuantas of the world who are specialized in certain areas, more like marketplaces rather than any kind of a specific specific player as such in that sense of the word. They are like the Ubers and the Olas of the world. Will they become big? Time will tell us. But my suspicion is that I think in every other market, if you look at when people say that there could be an Ola or an Uber once again in the education sector, it may not necessarily happen, because in this sector there was no one big player or two big players or three big players. Whereas in the IITG space, if you look at it, the FitGs, the Narayanas, the Chaitanyas, the Bansas are gone now. The Ellens, the Akashas of the world have become big. And as long as you have such big guys with a lot of muscle power, money power, it's very going to be difficult unless you have a differentiating product which can clearly take the market over. I don't see that happening as soon as in the near future at least.
Okay. With especially with CL, I mean, when I was with Time, one of the biggest challenges which I used to face was, okay, they are doing this online, let's do this online. And I mean, CL was perhaps one of the earliest one to do the online.
The big ones, among the big ones, yes.
Among the big ones, it was one of the earliest, at least in terms of use of technology. I think even today, if you look at compare the three, I think that is the one which has, it is the only one which has a live online class. I mean, if I'm not.
You're right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is it that CL is going to do? I mean, because if you are on live classes become too popular, then your franchisees become, a little worried.
Really. In fact, this is where I think.
Yeah, this is where I think one of the biggest challenges for the old big three to actually expand going to online.
If I look at it this way, Vivek, I mean, and I think we have discussed this offline quite a number of times. I think you don't do it, somebody else is going to disrupt this. There is zero doubt about it. I think Satya and GP, the founders of CL, are very, very clear in their minds. I'm not saying the others are not. Others are waiting and watching. Whereas Satya and GP and I have, that's one of the possible reasons why Vistamind has kind of, merged with Career Launcher also, because I think there's a meeting of minds. The future is clear. Whether it's going to happen tomorrow, 2 years from today, or 5 years from today, I do not know. Nobody can time the market. But slowly and steadily, you have crossed 1,000 numbers, CL alone, in the last 3 years. And that too at a very
high price point,
normal price point, unlike a lot of other players. Basically, because people see that I am giving convenience, I'm doing nothing new, I'm not giving throwing away price at a throwaway price. It's not that I'm giving you something, some kind of a gimmick with the video. I am giving you a real product. As you rightly use this word, I think coming a full circle, I'm giving you kind of a personalized attention, but now to you at home by a live person. I think I see that if the others do not catch up, sooner or later they will kind of have to face the music. I hope very strongly at that CL will attract a lot more of these guys, like in fact including Rajesh from 2IIM or Ravi Handa from Singh, to kind of become a bigger, a good strong player without kind of spreading everybody into losing money over it in the business sense of the word, and more importantly, utilize the best of these guys to be the right kind of trainers and teachers for people right from Kanyakumari to Kashmir.
Okay. Siddhartha, you wanted to ask something? Yep. You're mute.
Yeah, hi ARKS.
Hi Sucharita.
Hi. So I had a very simple question, because like before, as I have been also associated with Time, and that was the first time when I met you, and that was a physical business model. Right now, what we are doing is through Top My Test, we are doing an online course, and similar to you also were in a physical business model. There you're in an online business model right now. You're doing both online and offline right now. Yeah, I just coming to that. So how would you actually describe the difference between online and offline with respect to from your perspective, or from a mentor perspective, not from a student perspective? Like, what is the difference that you find when you're actually delivering the same kind of service online versus offline?
I'll take it up from where Vivek has asked me in the very beginning, that I'm pretty old in the system. So therefore, it is a little difficult, to be honest with you, to connect, at least initially, with the online students in that sense of the word. But trust me, I think a lot of these online students become a lot more closer to you, because they are there asking a lot more personal questions for their own good, as against a classroom where there are 40-50 people and people are shy asking questions. I'm not only talking about questions in quantity, verbal, RC types, not just for CAT, but about everything else too. I think a medium like online gives you access as well as non-intrusiveness. I won't use the word secrecy, but at least I will use I don't know what word to use. Privacy is the word for the student itself, to be able to get his or her doubts completely clear. In that sense of the word, I see going forward, at least, if not today, I'm probably 5 years from today, this will become a bigger model. Now, there could be possibility that it is a supplementary model, may not be a complete model, where you spruce it up with the offline model also. In fact, even today, as we speak, a lot of our classes are offline. More than 20,000 students are offline. But for every one of these 20,000 odd offline guys, I also give them certain WebEx sessions, certain online sessions, which is like, giving them the flavor kind of things.
An add-on, basically.
It's an add-on to now. It's a kind of an add-on. Sooner or later, people will get used to it. If they get used to it, and the people who go through this are absolutely happy with it. And I think that's what gives me the confidence that I think the future is here.
And how about, like, as long as we are in the subject of online versus offline, how about recorded versus live? Because I have myself seen a lot of people actually not very happy with recorded sessions in an online model, and I've also seen a lot of people who are not very happy with live sessions online. So, from your perspective, what do you think?
I
What's
think, given the fact that this generation is an instant gratification generation, in general, I'm telling you, I think a recorded video requires humongous self initiation, self motivation. A lot of people do that. There is zero doubt about it. But if you look at a lot of these videos, they're all about 7-minute videos, 10-minute videos, 15-minute videos. None of them are 2 hours in that sense. Whereas when you talk about a live class, it's a real class. It's a real actual class, just picked up from a classroom into a home in that sense of the word. So if you ask me my preference, I would say as a student also, I would prefer that you are talking to me, I am talking to you kind of things right now. Um, but having said that, I think there are positives about videos also. Khanacademy.org, some of us know about it. Some of the very, very good videos are there to for a person who starts off. The biggest advantage of an live classes, like it is incidentally, remember, this is exactly the reason why the classroom model became bigger than or the better than the correspondence model, is that I can reach out to my mentor. The mentor is going nowhere. He or she will remain to be important. I think videos can supplement, you will still need a mentor.
okay? Vivek, you have any follow-up questions on that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, when it comes to online, offline, etc., which you were speaking about, my biggest challenge, again, I mean, I mean, we have asked a lot of people about this. I mean, from a franchisee versus a franchisor point of view, if you were to look at it, because I mean, we have covered the online versus offline. Everyone has a different view. In terms of a franchisee versus franchisor, I mean, the staff required at a franchisee level is going to be much lesser.
Correct.
Your marketing efforts are going to be much more. Like, I mean, how are you guys working, or
No,
how
it's
is
not
it that you
easy.
guys are doing
To be honest with you,
convincing them?
it is not easy. It is not easy simply because I think every franchisee sees this as a threat to his existence. I think one of the reasons why the other two big players have not ventured into it for some reason or the other. All of them have videos, by mind you. They think that videos are less threatening to the existence of the franchisee himself. But the way I look at it, frankly, Vivek, and I honestly believe in this, with all due respects to the greatest of teachers everywhere on a teacher's day that I can tell you, I think we don't have enough inspiring teachers across the country. There are few. Every city has one or two in this kind of a field. Maybe in school, college, etc., there may be a lot many. But when you talk about test preparation, who understand CAT, who understand ZAT, who understand GMAT, I mean, trust me, there are very few people. But what is getting done is because of a brand name, people are selling it. And the guy who's buying it has no clue whether the teacher knows anything or not. In that sense of the word, I think it is only good for a franchisee to recognize his limitations and be a great reseller for the franchisor. The marketing arm will require, there is zero doubt about it that marketing is required. It's not that everything is online still. Whether you look at Amazon also or a
Yeah, they are
Flipkart
quite.
also, everybody is again setting up your offline stores. I think at least in India and probably even abroad, I think we'll need the offline stores. It's going to be a marketing arm. The kind of people required for franchising or as franchisees might change. The current requirement is that the guy who's a franchisee should also be a
MBA
guy who,
graduate.
yeah, kind of an MBA graduate, a person who wants to, who should also love teaching, education, etc. That part of it can possibly change tomorrow.
Okay. And again, with respect to, because you have handled these sort of functions, etc., I mean, the biggest, another question which comes up very frequently with, at least with a franchisee franchisor sort of a relationship, is that franchisee centers are not as good as a head office own center. I mean, that is
That's
something
not
which
true. That's
no,
not
no,
true.
no, no, no. That is something which a franchisee gets asked on a daily basis. I mean, I have myself being asked on a, when I used to run it, like because you are not a head office control center. And for some reason, everyone seems to know that which center is a head office control center, because I think those centers actually promote themselves like that.
There are two ways
So
of looking at it. Most probably, your competitor tries to
yeah,
denigrate you, put you down, kind of things. But the way I have looked at it, both as a franchisee and as a franchisor, I think the franchisee is a far ideally a better guy to handle it, because for him, he's an individual who is taking care of his business than, let's say, a franchisor who has a lot of stuff, and they are not dependent on the student feedback and or the money that comes from the student to survive. In that sense of the word, to a large extent, I think actually at a franchisee level, the servicing, the mentoring, and the connect with the student is always been far higher. And you are yourself a testimony to that fact. There is
thank
zero
you.
doubt about it. And you know this, that when I was in Bombay as a franchisee, I did the same thing. Having said that, I think in this business of education, you need to be passionate about it. I strongly believe that if you are passionate about it, franchise or franchisee doesn't make any difference. At the
Okay.
end of it, if you're not, both will make a difference.
Okay, Suchata, remove the mute.
Yeah, so so I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable with all these questions, right, ARKS?
Why uncomfortable? I mean, what kind of questions have you asked? Nothing. We have not asked anything personal, which are not
I get,
speakable in this kind of things.
I
But don't worry about it. My life is an open book.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask is, and this is something which I have always thought about, and now that I am also running this kind of an online platform, so there are certain things which I really want to know, and who better than you can tell me, because I remember you also guiding me in how to actually go about with the GMAT and MBA preparation. So again, coming to the point, how are the checks and balances in an online plus an offline business that you keep? So, like as you said, career launcher, you have both online as well as offline classes. So, what are the checks? What are the balances that you actually ensure as a businessman or as the CEO? What kind of checks and balances do you keep?
So in that sense, I think there are one thing which is common for both offline and online is the study material, which is one of the keys to your training, teaching, etc. The second thing which is again key to is your online testing, both what we call the mocks and the tests, sectional test, topic test, which is again completely common to both offline students as well as online students. The only thing which is different and or kind of partially differentiating is the not even differentiating, frankly. The other thing which is again constant is the faculty members. Only the medium changes. So medium changes for the faculty. We have the same kind of a yardstick, whether it's an offline or online, in terms of taking feedback very regularly. In fact, there are two types of feedbacks we take. One is on a regular anonymous feedback without giving anything away as a specific, prodding or probing question, where the student is completely free to air his or her views, as well as the second one, which is a lot more of a probing and a specific feedback, where we try to look at whether the faculty is effective, the material is effective, the mocks are effective, etc., etc., etc. So in that sense of the word, I really don't see too much of an issue. One issue which we have found out, and I think it will continue for some more time in India at least, because of the infrastructural bottlenecks that we have, and that is the availability of good internet connection at a lot of places. For example, as I'm speaking today, I think I'm in Noida, and despite Vivek's almost a disparaging comment about Noida a few minutes back,
Oh,
I have 100 Mbps here, and it has excellent network. But having said that, to be honest
I
with
mean,
you,
I lived, I mean, I don't admit it.
2000 years ago, sir.
Live, I
2000 years
lived,
ago.
yeah, I lived 17 years in Delhi, and
2000 years ago.
have no comments. So,
Exactly my point. 2000 years ago, the world has changed, sir. You have been enjoying yourself too much in Goa, it looks like. But but
Oh.
as I said, there are challenges, frankly, Sarita, and these are some Mufasal towns, smaller towns, and even certain places where the internet connection is not good. I think the feedback has not been excellent all the time.
Okay.
okay. One thing which I would with the franchisee sort of a model that you look at, the faculty. I mean, as the online business model penetrates, and we are going back to the same part, but with a difference. Instead of now the study material, it's now the faculty which is going to be a bigger. The delivery is actually going to be the bigger part rather than, say the office space or the size of batches, etc. Uh, faculty is a very big part of training all these people, and we are talking as faculty members. How is it that you will retain faculty members, given that it is almost as easy for him to probably go out and start his own business, right? I mean, this is,
True.
yeah.
That's only a myth, Vivek, that people can go out and start on their own.
I
That
mean,
many people have tried
at
it.
least that what seems to be the.
Yeah, people learn it the very hard way. But if I can tell you one thing, in that sense of the word, you talked something about franchisees not being very uh, comfortable with online education, online kind of things. But if you ask me now, I have Jijo in Bombay, who is the owner of the Bombay Center. I have Neeraj from Kanpur. I have Siddharth from Bhilai. I have Naveen and Nikunj from Calcutta. I have Atul Nair and Raghunath, in fact, who was with me prior to this in
Chennai.
Chennai. I think all these people and anybody and everybody who's ready to teach, even though they are in the franchisee network, in fact, the more the merrier for me. I will co-opt them into my system. That's the way I think everybody will feel a lot more comfortable. So, in that sense of the word, actually, instead of going away, these guys are getting a platform to talk to 20,000 people. They
Okay.
will never get it in a single. For example, I mean, I keep saying this to you. You are sitting in Goa. You can talk to a lot of people. The moment you come on board and take a couple of classes, I think you'll be talking to 1,000 students in a class. I think it's accelerating. Trust
That's
me.
true. That's perfectly fine. Another part which I would like to, I mean, you actually went in between to, I mean, you opened a Vanguard business school, right? I mean, and that is one part which was there. You started off as like a part where you wanted to change the education part in terms of how B schools were run, and that was probably a point of time where too many B schools had actually sprouted up, right? I mean, and the quality of education was not that great overall. I mean, what has been your experience? It's almost like what, 7, 8 years now that Vanguard actually
8 years,
came up.
yes. Eighth
Yeah,
batch
8 years.
is
Right.
eighth,
Yeah.
eighth batch is on. To be honest with you, I think that space that we have started it, the space does exist. I think when the B schools were charging 10, 12, 15 lakhs and probably giving about less than 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs as the average salary at the end of 2 years, we had started this 4 lakh MBA with approximately a 4 lakh as their return on investment in terms of the 4 lakh job. I think we did extremely successfully in the first few years. However, I think like in any business, I think I think we were in the maybe. I mean, on hindsight, I can say we were at the wrong time, in the right place at the wrong time. When the entire CAT MBA market was going down, we jumped into the bandwagon of MBA schools. I think, as you correctly said, there's so many business schools sprouted across the country, and we were one among them. To differentiate was difficult, even though we had an excellent track record till last this year, for that matter. I think it was difficult to kind of take our name or word to nooks and corners of the country. I think marketing muscle is very important, which is another reason why I'm trying to tell you that it's so difficult for a smaller player to kind of do it unless there is a real distinction as such. I think we had a differentiation, but I don't think we had enough of differentiation or distinction to kind of maximize our numbers that easily, nor we had the marketing muscle to do that.
Okay. Uh, Another story which is very related to that is that of Vista Mind, right? I mean, you actually started Vista Mind, and it was one of the few initial uh, courses which actually provided live online classes. I mean, there used to be Baiju who used to do recorded online. There used to be Baiju with VSAT classes as such, then Baiju with tabs. But as such, live online, we were one of the few earliest players to actually do a live online through WebEx, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Uh, do you think that if you had started that like right now, about 2 years ago, when Geo Revolution actually came, it would have been a bigger success than, because I think one of the problems at that time was also bandwidth.
To be honest with you, I think our mistake, if you ask me what our mistake was, to concentrate on two things at the same time. We were neither big in one, nor we were, while our idea was brilliant, I think the fact that we spent a lot of money on the offline side without concentrating online was the undoing, was our real undoing, rather than the fact that the geo revolution came in, let's say, only a couple of years back. Frankly, we could have, I mean, this is my honest thought process. When we joined CL a year back, I think we were very close to what CL themselves had. I think in the last 1 year, we've doubled it.
In this market.
In this market, I'm talking about on the online market. And we've doubled it right now from there to wherever we were. I'm talking about all CL put together from what VistaMind joined CL as well as together kind of things. So I think it's a business problem rather than as a idea problem in that sense, to be honest. I think all of us make mistakes. And I think as a businessman, I was not so brilliant at that point of time.
No, that's actually very refreshing that somebody actually accepts, or at least, I mean, in hindsight, realizes that what could have been done in a better manner. Couple of additional questions also, because I mean, you have, I mean, as I said, I mean, your story is probably the story of the test prep industry as such. Okay, so you see all these tides which come up, right? I mean, you have there was a time when offline coaching was really brilliant. I mean, you could actually have, I mean, you could probably have a large center coming up in almost every space. Every town you'll probably have larger and larger centers. You had multiple centers. CAT was growing, the number of applicants growing, and then came the bust. The moment they went online, the bust started. I mean, the downfall started. I mean, where do you think this number of CAT applicants? I mean, do you think MBA is still a viable option for people? I mean,
frankly, as far as students are concerned, Vivek, and this is with complete conviction, I'm saying, without MBA, they don't have a chance in the industry if they are not specialists.
Yeah.
If you are a data science specialist, if you are a digital marketing specialist, if you are, let's say, a financial risk management specialist, if you are a CA, if you are a CFA, see, these are specializations. If you are good in that, fair enough, you have some say in your life. But if you are not one among these, and a lot of us are not, I'm saying myself, I think you need a generalization, and MBA is the way to go. Engineering has lost its sheen. In fact, I was just listening to it somewhere that in whole of Maharashtra, only 75,000 seats have got filled this year in engineering. Can you beat that? I mean, I'm talking about just 4 days back, 5 days back, a news report in Times of India.
There are, I think, what, close to 1,000 engineering colleges in Maharashtra?
Possibly. Yeah. And that shows how pathetic the engineering market has become. And the BCom, BA, BSc market is not going anywhere at all in that sense of the word. In fact, if anything, it is increasing. The BBA market is increasing. I think there is a reason for that. There are generalists available for it, and there are specialists available also. Let's be clear about it. The data analytics, the data sciences, the digital marketing, or all these risk management things that you just now talked about, I think they will require. There are people required for it, but for the vast majority of them, MBA will continue to be the important thing. Having said this, is CAT market going to revive tomorrow morning? No, I see a completely different trend which is happening in the last, let's say, a couple of years. I think more and more of GMAT is becoming the bigger pie. Right now, it's maybe 1/6 or 1/7 of the CAT market. I see it becoming half of it in the next 3 years, and probably equal to CAT if CAT keeps coming down in the next 7-8 years.
But I mean, like, do you think that people are willing to leave India. I mean, like we actually
Oh
spoke
yeah.
to two people who actually left India and then came back and started their
Oh
own
yeah, yeah,
business.
yeah. They want to go out of India. Very good. They will go out of India and they come back to India. Because I'll tell you what, there is and if you notice, a lot of people who've come back to India have picked up wonderful ideas from the West, from Southeast Asia, etc. See that there is a gap available in India and they are just starting off that. As simple as that. Our Sucharita herself is a great example.
Okay.
I was trying to join the gap, Max.
No,
Yeah.
no, you have started off this. How many people have gone into this kind of a idea? Suchita? I'm not saying that you have copied it or aped it from the West. All I'm trying to say is that newer ideas, the confidence to start something on your own, much more, I think comes from a little bit of exposure. While you are right about it, some people may or may not want to go, but India has so many rich people in this country, Vivek, that I think a lot of people are going. I can see that happening. I can see that happening.
I
Okay.
just want to ask a question as a follow-up question to this. So, as you said, like the GMAT numbers in the long run, in the future, will be very close to the CAT numbers. So, so I have myself have spoken to few students, and I've seen a lot of people actually who are interested, and they are specifically the ones who have about 2 years to 3 years of work experience, and they are just craving to go out of this country, go and get their MBA done from abroad. Not only because it's abroad, but also because they want to get that exposure. More of it, it's because of networking. So, what do you think about that? How many do you think that the entire scenario will change completely all of a sudden? And what is the kind of breakup? Because right now, as we know, abroad in US or in UK or Europe, you have a master's program, you have the MBA program. Like I myself had a lot of work experience, so I did the 1 year program, but then there are the MIM programs or the MSCBA programs, which are for people who have less work experience. So what do you think about that? What's the kind of ratio that you feel is going to go with in the near future with respect to GMAT numbers?
Even now there are lots of people going, Sucharita, and I suspect that continue to go up. A lot of people who have finished their degrees and can't get into an IIM in India or cannot get into the top IIMs and the good institutions in India, rather would choose the MIMs from Europe's and the US's of the world. I think they come for less than 25, 30,000, 30 lakh rupees. And India also, if it is costing you 18, 20 lakhs for some of these institutes, I think the perception still going to exist that going to Europe or going to US or Canada, UK, etc., is going to be better off. That's at least the perception part of it. Second thing that I'm looking at is if you look at GMAT may be 30,000. Please note, a NMAT exam, which is also conducted by the same guys, is 80,000 students, 75, 80,000 students. It's just a matter of time that, I mean, in fact, I had spoken to GMAC Council in India, which is there in Gurgaon here. I have spoken to so many of them, and they were not able to convince their masters in the US. But I was very clear about it that you start a program specifically called GMAT India, and utilize that for half the schools in India as well as half the schools abroad, especially Southeast Asia, Australia, Canada, even. I think it will be easily 2+. I think they're missing a trick, is what I would say. If I were a GMAC head president, I would start it tomorrow morning.
Okay, now I'll just deviate the topic a little bit. Let's talk about something else apart from who that. So Vivek has given a very good description of ARKS describes the test prep industry. Okay, it defines he's like the epitome of the test prep industry. But I am actually going to take it in another direction because I have not only known you as a mentor. I remember you speaking to me about the importance of doing an MBA when I was also working for time. So I also I also know you as a very good friend. So, with that respect, and I have a lot of respect for you, you're a great
Thank
motivating
you.
factor in my life, and that is true. So, what I was going to ask you is, how about your, apart from your business and your professional life, how about your personal life? Like, do you get enough time for relaxation, with your kids and with your wife, your family? What's your ideal day? Can you can you just describe an ideal day of yours? I mean, I mean, I guess a lot of people want to know that because everyone knows you as the Srinivas who is always busy with all the students taking classes. But what's like an ideal day for you?
No, no, I think I don't. It may sound a little cliched, and or it might sound preposterous to a lot of people. But I enjoy going to my office, meeting students even today. As far as personal life is concerned, I said I at least legitimately have only one kid known. And she's in 11th. And I spend a lot of time with her, quite a bit of it. Once I'm back, we spend a lot of time together talking to each other. So my wife also teaches, incidentally. So in that sense, we do discuss teaching again, students again. I think it's a slight problem with our home. It looks like that we spend a lot of time talking about teaching, learning, students, etc. Having said that, I absolutely enjoy listening to music. I spend a lot of time doing that. I read a lot, absolutely read a lot. In fact, whenever I have time, especially on travels, and I like speaking to friends. I think I do keep in touch as much as possible with just about as many people as I can. And I have students right from 2000 whom I am in touch with once in a while. And thanks to today being a Teacher's Day, it has always been pleasure that I've got a lot of happy Teacher's Day's messages.
Yeah, that is.
That's amazing. I have a last question for you, and then I think I'll not take a lot of your time. So, let's talk about IIM Calcutta. So after IIM Calcutta, you were working for Maruti, right?
Correct.
So a lot of people knows about it. A lot of people does not. So what made you shift from this corporate Maruti, from that sector to an education sector? What actually clicked in your mind that okay, you know what? I should actually shift my industry.
So to be good that question, actually before I went to IIM Calcutta, I was teaching.
Okay.
I actually taught for MBA kids in Hyderabad. MBA entrance examination, MBA CET used to be called, not CAT really, but a couple of classes for CAT, but mostly for MBA CET, which is a local exam.
Time.
Yeah, it was a time in 1995 summer, and thanks to the gentleman who owned the time, I paid my first year fees thanks to that 45 days of marathon teaching. I think I loved teaching even then, and it also made good money even before I went to an IIM. That was another positive factor of it. So while Maruti was extremely good, to be honest with you, and I enjoyed sales of automobiles, I think it was sooner or later that I could come back into teaching. I think that's what I did.
Vic, you have any questions for us?
Nothing much. I think I should leave him and let him travel Delhi and enjoy as much of Noida as possible.
Thank you.
I guess
ARKS, anyways,
Thanks for the
thank you.
consideration.
Yeah, thank you very much, ARKS, for joining in. I mean, it's always a pleasure. I mean, hopefully we'll touch base again, and hopefully
Thank you very much, Sucharita and Vivek. I mean,
Yeah.
as usual, pleasure being with you
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Thank you.
That was the last of our panelists today. Thank you very much for joining in across all these different sessions. Do share these with your friends. Have a different look at your teachers. Thank you very much for joining in. Good night.